Hello and welcome to Keeping It Real, a webinar series presented by the Institute for Responsible Nutrition. Today, we're broadcasting from the MyFitnessPal headquarters in San Francisco. The Institute and MyFitnessPal are co-hosting a 10-day clean eating challenge. Participants are challenged to eat more clean, real food every day for 10 days. So today, this webinar is intended to help you, our viewers, to eat more clean, real food in your daily life in a way that's easy and stress-free. I'm Lucy Gable, exercise physiologist, nutritionist, and coach, and I'll be your host. I'm speaking today with Dr. Maya Adam, medical doctor and teacher at Stanford University Medical Center, and she also cooks daily for her family. Also, we're speaking with Chef Cindy Gershen, owner of the Sunrise Bistro and Catering in Walnut Creek, California. She's also a high school teacher, and she is the co-author of the book, the Fat Chance, of the Fat Chance cookbook. And so I got a little ahead of myself there, but she wrote the book with Dr. Robert Lustig. Welcome, ladies. Good to see you today.
Thank you.
So the way we're going to run the webinar is we're going to talk for the first 30 minutes. These women are going to give us some lovely stories, and we're going to share some information. And then we're going to invite the participants, you, to go ahead and type into the chat that you see there on the right-hand side of your screen for any questions that you might have, or comments, thoughts, so that we can include you in our discussion.
Or recipes.
Type recipes. Okay, sure, share some things. So we're going to get started first by asking our guests to talk a little more about themselves and how it is they actually provide education to the groups that they work with. So we're going to start with you, Maya.
Hi, everyone. So I've been teaching at the School of Medicine at Stanford since 2009. I've been at Stanford since 2009. And in 2012, I remember there was kind of this explosion of online learning, and we were experimenting with teaching videos, and somebody asked me at the time, what do you think is the biggest challenge, the biggest health threat facing our children today? And for me, the answer was clear, that it was the food environment that our children are growing up in. And so those two things occurring at the same time, we put together an open online course to help parents to get back into the kitchen and start cooking real healthy food for their children and avoiding processed food. And that course ended up reaching more than 200,000 people in 80 countries. It's on Coursera, and it led to a book that's about to come out in about a month called Food, Love, Family. It's a practical guide to child nutrition. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying not only to offer instruction, but to offer inspiration. So there are stories as well in the course. There are scenes where people are cooking with a child in their arm, and we're just trying to keep it real and show that real people can do it and that it adds a tremendous amount of value to your lives.
Wow. Right. So Cindy, go ahead and please explain to the audience a little more about how you help to provide education to the group that you work with.
I am, I want to say, a nutrition kind of science teacher at Mount Diablo High School out in Concord in Contra Costa County where I live. And about 5 years ago in 2010, I went to this school, and Dr. Robert Lustig and I did a kind of an eat and learn, and we thought, we got to get in there and change the food in the cafeteria, like what you'd observed. It's the environment. And in our case, when you are in schools where children are eating free and reduced breakfast and lunch, or is being provided, you have an opportunity to really change things, and you can change their health because they're getting 2 meals a day for free at school. So we thought, if we can get into a school, we can get the cafeteria, and I thought, this will be so simple. We'll just go in, well, here's the evidence, change the food, here's how you're going to do it, and we'll work with you, and then we can go on our way. So fast forward 5 years, I am the nutrition teacher and I'm working with the cafeteria, and it's taken 5 years. But getting the kids involved in cooking and growing it, it's way more than just changing the food in front of them. You have to tell them why they're doing it and give them the tools. So I'm happy to say I went there to see if I can get the food to change in the cafeteria, and I stayed and I'm changing the children. And they eat the food and they love the food. And a lot of what we have spoken about, it's that community building. It's that getting the children involved. They're our next generation. They're the people that are going to be taking care of us. So we really need to take care of them.
I agree. So you each work with different groups of people. And I'm wondering if you might each share a little success story of your own, something that has actually happened with the people that you've worked with, so that our viewers could see that making a change in the way they eat is actually possible. So how about we start with you, Maya? Do you have any success stories?
I'll tell you a personal story that ended up being a success story. About 3.5, 4 years ago, our middle child, a little boy of the age of 3, he got very sick, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. And he, lost a lot of weight, and we couldn't keep the underpants up on his little bony hips. And we were scared. We were scared we were going to lose this child. And after 6 weeks, we were told that Misha has celiac disease. So we were thrown for a loop because we had cooked kind of occasionally, but now we were thrown into a situation where we needed to cook 3 meals a day at home because this child couldn't eat the regular food that was out there. We hadn't yet found the proper, safe, gluten-free foods. And I'm not going to tell you that going gluten-free is going to be the answer to all of your problems, believe me. But what I will tell you is that cooking, that change in our lives, ended up bringing us so much joy. We as a family came together around food and around cooking. And Misha is a perfectly healthy 2nd grader now. He loves cooking. And it's been a gift for our whole family. So I think that's probably the success story that I would share.
I love that.
Well, I have a great success story. My first year of teaching, I'm a chef and a restaurant owner, so I'd never really, other than raising a blended family of 8 children, I really never taught. So here I am in the classroom, and I'm teaching, safety and sanitation, of course, and then the 6 essential nutrients. So how to, I put my, what I was going to teach all together, and in walks the class. And it's like, okay, all right, how am I going to get these kids to eat this? And there was one young man that he had just transferred from a high school in Richmond to our school, and he weighed 400 pounds. He was African American, he weighed 400 pounds. And it was like, oh my gosh. And the principal said, do you think you can help him? And I'm looking around, help him, help the whole class. I mean, these kids are drinking sports drinks. The kid opens up his backpack and pulls out a gallon of Sunny D. And Sunny D is that orange drink. And he thought that it was good for him, and that's what he drank every day. So when I started to teach him, he let go of the Sunny D. We had to explain about water and eating healthy and getting him to eat fruits and veggies. And by the end of the year, this young man had released he's 275 pounds now after a year. And he gets in tears when he talks about it. It changed his life. So that was in 2011. It's 2005. He's in college. He goes to LMC. He wants to be a nutritionist. And he comes and helps me in the after-school program. But he helps all the other kids. And I mean, it's just one story after another of these children learning to eat, explaining to them. Because I'd say, how many of your family have type 2 diabetes? Who has high blood pressure? And everybody's hands went up. They knew somebody. So it empowers them. And then they go home and they know how to cook, and the parents will call me and they'll say, oh my God, this kid cooks, they clean, they tell me how to hold a knife, they do all these things. So that's my success story. Every kid in that class is a success story.
Now, how about just share a couple of seconds about the football team and no one thought you were going to make a difference with them.
We got a new coach at our school. Our children, they're a very low performing school. So most kids on the SATs, but the STAR testing, if it's a good high school, you're at like 900 to 1,000. Our school tries to get to 650, 675. So they are very low performing. Not only do they perform low educationally, but their sports teams fall apart. And so I said, well, you're not feeding these, they're not eating. So they got a new coach and said, no, what we're going to do is get a new football coach. We're going to win this year. So walk out during the summer to meet the new football coach. And I said, I've been cooking with the kids over the summer because I come during the summer on my own time. Nice. And I said, I'm your team chef. And he looks at me and he says, what do I need a team chef for? He says, I'm one of the best coaches around. I was at this school, my kids were. I said, okay. So I just kids came. Just before started and went away for 3 days. And I came back. The coach gets up. She says, you can never go out of town again. He said, those 3 days you were gone, the kids fell apart. So we have formed a team together. Our kids, I get there at 7 in the morning. The kids, the athletes come in and I taught them to cook. We grow things in our garden. We bring in, I talk about nutrition, and I teach them how to take care of themselves. Our team, I said, if you think that you're gonna eat a couple of meals and you're gonna be fine, we are building a team. That means good nutrition and exercise daily and not just once a week. And you need to remove things off the plate, which is the sports drinks and Gatorades and all of these things. And you need to bring good food in. And it was like, as their palates changed, their energy changed. So yeah, we haven't really won a game yet, but you know what, we're scoring. And I said to the kids, it's not about winning, it's about performing. How are you performing in class? How are you performing on the field? So now I've got these kids lined up to come in to eat the football team, to eat lunch with me. And I got the soccer team going, well, what about us? And I got the basketball team, because every kid wants to feel good. Everybody does. So I could just go on and on. Come see my school. The kids are amazing. I'm waiting for that scores are going to go up.
Well, that's an
I know it goes
story.
together.
Yes.
It's a very exciting
It does go
story.
together.
Yes.
I think just to add on to that, Cindy,
Yeah.
I think one of the most powerful messages we can give to our children is to teach them, when they look at a food, to ask, is this food worthy of me? Is it good enough? Does it reflect all of the effort that I put into my sports and my schoolwork? And will it support me in all of those things that are so important to me? I think that's very powerful.
But it takes education, and it takes it to be, my feeling is the cafeteria needs to be the extension of the classroom, because we're teaching, those are not food ladies in there, they're career technical educators. So we need to teach the cafeteria ladies about nutrition, and they need to be engaged in the food that they're giving, and they've got to change the cafeterias at school from a profit center where they need to make money to serving our children. And that's what parents need to know too. It's not about just getting a calorie into a child, because a calorie is not a calorie. It's about getting that real food into your child, because they are what they eat. And there is a way that you're supposed to do it. There's carbohydrates, that feed your body. I mean, a sports drink may be a carbohydrate, but it's not the right.
There's not a lot of other good things.
No, you need to feed your butt everything. But it takes educating, and it takes speaking, and the kids listen, and they want to perform for you. And everybody does. It's also the fountain of youth. And I say, if you want your grandmother to look like me, because I'm old enough to be the grandmother, I said, feed your grandmother. They go home. They go, stop eating like that. Here, please. I said, it's never too late. Never too late.
And your kids go home and start cooking for their family, you said, right?
Absolutely. They go home, they cook for their families, they like to shop, they go with their mothers, and the parents are asking them questions now. What can I do to change my family? And I said, no, if you want, get a teenager because they know everything. So I'm giving them a little information, and they go home and they're very powerful. That is the workforce that we need, those teenagers.
So speaking of education, Maya, you have a book coming out soon, don't you?
Yes. So our book, it's already available for pre-order on Amazon, and it's actually a non-profit book, which is why I don't feel bad about telling you about it, because all of the royalties are going to non-profit organizations that help promote cooking. And the book is meant to really just, in an accessible way, to tell stories about families around the world, how they cook, to transmit recipes and practical cooking tips, and some science around why is home cooking generally healthier? Why is it hard to get fat on simple home cooked foods that really use mostly raw, ingredients and mostly real foods? So that's what we're looking forward to seeing how that can further support our work.
That's amazing. I'm getting this book.
Now, that's going to be very helpful for people to take a look at so that they can bring this into their home and continue to reference something like that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think we really, when you're asking people to change something about the way in which they function, everybody is, trying to get a million things done in the day. If you want people to really start cooking instead of getting takeouts every day, then you have to show them why. You have to, the question is, where's the money? Why am I going to make these changes? And I think the minute we can start to show the joy, not just the health benefits, but also the joy of simple home cooking, that we'll then sit around a table together, we'll talk more. People will want to come into our homes because we start to get pretty good at cooking. And I think that's the magic and that's the added value that you have to portray alongside the message about health. It should be a celebration of food. No food should be feared. And I think we really, if we emphasize that, we empower our learners and our children and everybody in the society to really make that change.
And it needs to be integrated right into the school plan. And that's what we're doing at my school. I've been mandated by our superintendent to educate my seniors, the kids that have been through, because I have sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and we go back out into the community, and they want to have this education from kindergarten through 12th grade. And cooking and gardens, we have tower gardens in our classroom, we grow hydroponically in my class. That needs to be part of the curriculum. Food, energy, nutrition, waste, the environment needs to be integrated straight through the curriculum in schools. And it should be just across the board, across the country. And then, I'm sorry, you'll be out the job, but it'll be good. We'll love it. But you see our children, but you can come and help. I mean, you're the teacher, and we still need people that are going to be putting that energy in there. We need to motivate our new teachers to come like a 21st century home ec. That this needs to be in every school, and every teacher should be bringing that along in their classrooms.
Cindy, you're very passionate about what you do.
Slightly.
And just before we move on to some more specifics and some examples for people, how they can integrate this into their lives, I want to just ask you if you can briefly share your personal experience with weight loss.
I used to weigh almost 100 pounds more than I weigh now. And about 16 years ago, I've been dieting my whole life since I'm 9 years old. And it was always reduce the calories, increase your exercise, except I would reduce the calories and have no energy to be able to exercise. And so that would last for a couple of weeks, and then the new diet. And so somebody said to me, what I've done is I've just, I got rid of the sugar, and this was 16 years ago, got rid of the sugar and the refined carbohydrates, and I just added a salad and added a fruit at a meal, a whole grain. And I thought, that makes sense. And they said, don't eat in between meals so that you're hungry when you go to eat. Within like 8 months to a year, the 100 pounds is gone, and I've never looked back. But I don't go back to eat those things. Lustig and I sit on the American Heart Association task force, and there are regulations for sugar. I mean, how many grams of sugar should you be eating? For an adult woman, about 24 grams. Well, if you get a soda, it's 50, 60 grams of sugar. I have my kids track how much added sugar they eat in a day, and the average high schooler eats between 100 to 150 grams of sugar a day. And that's what I was doing. I was exercising and I was counting calories instead of sugar grams. And when I changed from calories to eating just breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eliminated the sugar, refined carbohydrates, added a salad at lunch, a salad at dinner, and a whole grain, everything changed.
So you took out a lot of unreal food.
Unreal.
And you started eating more real, clean food.
I ate real food.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
That's the big deal.
And then I got a garden, and then I started eating it. And then I went to the produce market, and I go, this is wonderful, and the tomato smells like a tomato, and
The difference.
it's just the difference. And I was masking it with sugar. And the more sugar I ate, the less appetite I had for real food. You get rid of the sugar, and then you're able to actually taste the sugar in the food. You know what I'm talking about.
I think that's so powerful what you're saying, because this is, I think, the most powerful thing, especially for our children, when we can teach them to actually prefer the foods that are going to love them back for a lifetime. That's when we've won, right?
But someone had to teach me. Someone had to explain to me what it was, because there was so much misinformation out there. Jimmy Craig, I've been on the OptiFast 7 times. Any diet that somebody would say. And I didn't look at my friend to say, you look at your friend and you go, oh God, you just lost weight, how did you do it? But you don't look at them 6 months later when they gain the weight back. You go, oh, I think I'm gonna try that diet. And my thought, and this is a crazy thought, but I'm gonna tell you, I would say, you know, I get off the diet and then I binge a little bit and I gain 10, 15 pounds back. What I need to do really is go on that diet and lose an extra 10 or 15, get below my weight, so then I can eat my way back up and then I'll be stable, because there's the insanity. So you actually give yourself an eating disorder from dieting. And when you eat well, and I don't even deal with I have young girls in my class. I said, don't even think about dieting. Think about eating well and trust your body will find where it needs to go.
There you go. And you're a wonderful example of the success of that and how one can actually lose
And
weight.
it's the fountain of youth. So if you're older out there, I'm 60 now. I'm turning 60 next week. Fountain of youth is to eat well.
And exercise.
Oh, no. Well, you have
Eat well and
to.
exercise.
If you don't eat well, you will not have the energy to exercise.
True.
You will
That
not
is
be
true.
able to sustain anything. You can't think straight. You can't
That's
do anything.
very true.
So start with eat well. If, like Rob and I say, if you change the food, you change the future.
There you go.
So just change your food today. When do you start? You can start with the next meal.
So that's a great place to segue into the next question.
Okay.
So I want to give everyone out there a few practical tips on how they can incorporate what you're saying into their life. So let's just say, for example, we're doing a real clean food challenge now. So how would each of you advise the viewers, maybe just one top tip on how to get more clean food into their daily life? Your top tip, 1 or 2 tips. What would you say, Maya?
So I would say learn how to chop an onion. It is the most valuable skill you can have. Learn how to chop an onion. Always have onions and garlic, if you like garlic, in your home. Always have olive oil, and always have, the basic seasonings: salt, pepper, a little bit of sugar sometimes, just to, to balance out the flavors. Of course, we never want to use excess amounts of these things. But I think that if you have certain basics in your kitchen, it becomes easy to take any vegetable you have. You can chop up some carrots and broccoli, put them on the sauteed onions with a little bit of soy sauce, and you have a stir fry. Then next day you can chop up some mushrooms and put some fresh thyme or basil, and suddenly you're in the south of France. You can basically take a trip around the world, starting with those sauteed onions. I think it's the most powerful principle you can use in the kitchen. What's yours?
Mine. Okay. Well, I get home from work and I'm like really tired. And my husband likes me right away. It's like, oh my gosh. So,
Okay, everyone, sorry about that. We lost the connection, but we're back. So hopefully you're still here. And we're back just in time for
and we put a meal
questions.
together when we were out.
That's right.
That's how quick it was.
We ate, did
Dinner's
everything. So, do we need to finish off, or are we ready to start questions?
The last comment that I was making about what Cindy's saying, that it doesn't have to be expensive. I think the message we have to give is that you should do the best you can with the resources that are available.
Yes.
And so, even Michael Pollan says it's more important to eat vegetables than to the fact that they're organic. That's, wonderful if you can afford it, but if not, just make the best decision you can with the resources you have.
I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. So you both agree that it doesn't have to be more expensive to eat healthy, to be healthy.
It is so expensive to go out to Subway. You can, for $6, I can feed a whole family. And that's that $6 or $5 Subway. I said, give me the money, I'll fix you a better meal. And the kids know that. They go, Chef Cindy can feed us for almost nothing. So, and that's basically what we do.
I think also, there's a lot of good writing. Mark Bittman has written quite a bit on sort of comparative economics in eating. So he said, is fast food really cheaper? And in fact, if you look at the number of calories in fast food, because the number of calories is so high, the cost per calorie is lower than cooking a meal with real food. But we're in the midst of an obesity epidemic. We don't need cheap, empty calories. We need good nutrition. So if you look at nutrient density, you can come out much better from a regular supermarket where you can buy a can of beans and an onion and a head of lettuce and make a meal that is nutrient dense for much less than you might spend on a meal for 4 at McDonald's.
There you go.
And you got to do it seasonally. And that's what I teach the kids. Do seasonally, buy what's on sale, buy enough for 2 meals. You know, I mean, if you're going out to just purchase for yourself, it's going to appear to be more expensive. But when you're cooking for the whole family, then it is less per person to do that. I mean, what does a pizza cost? $20 or $15? I mean, come on, you can feed a whole family for that. And if you don't believe me, you come to my classroom and I'll show you how we do it on nothing.
I love that idea. And even individuals, they can follow the same rule, because if you're making food for yourself, if you make several meals at once, first of all, you cut down on the time that you spend in the kitchen, and second of all, you have the meals ready. The next night you eat a dinner, it's already in the fridge.
Yeah, and if you take, like, if you roast a whole chicken, and then you pick off the meat and you put it in little baggies and stick it in the freezer, when you go to make a restuffed baked potato, or you want to do a pasta, and then you can take out those little pieces of meats and mix them with some veggies, and you've got a really wonderful pasta or a restuffed baked potato or a stir fry. So save everything. Save everything.
Totally agree. So we do have some questions coming in. The first question is, do you have any tips for engaging kids and teenagers in cooking?
Do you want to take that, or should I?
Oh, I'll start
I'll
off with
get
that.
that one. Yeah.
The tip for engaging them, oh my goodness. So you're going to have to take the time to teach them. And that's what parents are going to have to do. Why kids don't like to cook is because they don't want to get cut and they don't feel comfortable with the knife. Take a class with them. There's people out there like Cooking Matters and 18 Ways where you can take a class. Take a class with your child from your local community. Make sure that they get good skills. That's the only thing that holds back. I'm a cooking teacher. So what holds the kids back is they go, oh, I don't know how to hold the knife. Learn proper technique and safety and sanitation, and then set them free, because that's all they need to know.
I'm coming from absolutely the opposite angle. I completely agree with Cindy, but as somebody who has no proper formal technique and I'm still cooking, I can't pass that on to my children, and they're too young to put into a cooking class. So I think my tip would be take them shopping with you whenever you can for food. Let them have control. Let them pick. If they see a weird looking vegetable, don't say, no, we can't have that. If you can afford it, buy it and find a way to cook it. And then let them feel they're the one deciding. If they're the one that decides how much pepper a dish needs, and you say to them, are you sure? And they say yes, then they are much more likely to eat that than if you put down a plate of food in front of them and they didn't see where it came from.
I also teach children that are autistic in my classroom, and this has been the first year that I've done that. So there's 8, they're just like standing back, and they come every day, and I have a table, and I always, I've taught them different things. And in the beginning, they wouldn't taste anything, but the more they were engaged and the more they cooked, they started to get interested in it, and now they all put out their hands. So you want to taste what you did? They're all eating that. So it's about the engagement and it's about the practice. Your children may not eat the food that they're cooking the first couple of times because it'll be odd to them, but soon they're going to be engaged, and that's what I see happening in my classroom. Is the more they're around it, the more they're having to do it, the more they take ownership, and then they want to taste it, and they're looking around to see if you like it or not. And that was the biggest thing. If they can get their grandmother or their father to eat what they made, then they're more apt to be eating it too. So that's what I'm seeing in my classroom, especially with teenagers.
Wow. So we're ready for the next question. Any advice for getting picky eaters to like real food?
That is a hard one. I'll start with that one because I deal with a lot of young children, and that question comes up a lot. And it's stressful. Believe me, I know. When in the moment, when the tensions are high and you've made a great meal and you're 4 or 5-year-old refuses to eat it, it's stressful. And I think the key is to just take a breath and realize the number one thing you can do to help picky eaters grow out of that is to eat a good diet yourself. If you are eating and enjoying your vegetables in front of your children, they will one day make similar choices. And another thing you can do, again, is to really involve them in the cooking and the shopping and let them be a part of the process, and then they'll be much more likely to try it. That would be my advice.
I'm going to go back to being the teacher here. I was doing food at the preschool, and I brought in and was cooking with the kids and brought in lunch because I wanted to see if we could change the palate of the schools. And it was kindergarten through 7th grade every day. And in the beginning, the kids didn't like the food. But what I said for them to do was I will feed the teachers for free and the kids' parents, we replaced the lunch program there. So I said, I want the teachers to come and to sit with the kids at the table, and they were all eating community. Well, in the beginning, they threw some of the food away. But the teachers, they ate, and they said to the kids, put your napkin on your lap, you're going to use a fork and a knife, because mostly at school, the kids just go, they eat by themselves and they throw their food away and they go out. I had parents that sent me notes that said, my child now eats tomato sauce on their pasta because they sat at the table and they watched other kids eat it, and the teacher said everyone has to take a bite of everything, and that teacher changed the palate. And it takes 6 or 8 times or 11 times to change the palate. So I'm going to say I'm proactive for cooking in the class from kindergarten. Get in there with your children. If you know how to cook, go in and help the teacher. The teachers need to do this, and it needs to be in the curriculum. And I'm going to keep saying that. Put it in the curriculum. We can help teach your kids, because it was the schools and that cafeteria that took away your child's palate by the food in the cafeteria. So it's our job to bring it back. So we need to support you, right?
One last thing to add to that, Karen LeBihan, who wrote this beautiful book, French Kids Will Eat Anything, or something like that, she writes about how in France, there's a rule that no food can be served more than once per month on the school lunch menu. So it's basically taste training. They teach their children to eat like we teach our children to read. This is an A, it makes this sound. This is a beet, it tastes like this. This is an endive, it tastes like this. And that exposure to different tastes leaves them with a much broader palate. So maybe we can learn something from that as well.
That's seasonal cooking. So whatever happens to be seasonal, we do. Fruit and veggies of the month and stuff. So that's great.
So we've got a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to keep going with this. Any real food ideas for when the sugar craving hits? You guys have any thoughts about that one?
So I think there are ways in which, firstly, when you in general reduce your sugar, as Cindy was mentioning, you become more sensitive to the amount of sugar in your food. But there are also some tricks. If you add, for example, a bit of vanilla essence when you're baking, or a bit of coconut, fresh coconut into your baked goods, you need less sugar, because the aroma of those things tells your brain this is something sweet. So you can actually do with less sugar. I don't know if you have any tips on that.
For me, because I don't eat sugar, any added sugar at all. Once I do, I want to eat more sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So I have fruit. I have a fruit at every meal, and I drink. I'll have beverage, because most of the time what I am is I'm thirsty and I'm tired. And sugar is, your brain knows it's energy. Glucose is so look to see if you're sleeping. If you're sleeping enough, stay away from caffeine. That's what I do. Take a minute to just sit with it, because if you can, I'll draw in a breath and I'll say, okay, I really want that sugar. Am I tired? Am I thirsty? Am I nervous? Am I anxious about something? So I kind of talk to myself, and then I sit through it, and then I'll say, maybe it's time to eat. And that's what it could be. So to cover it up without facing, for me, it would just, then it would never go away. But to address why it's happening has really helped me. So water, sleep, take a look at yourself.
I love that idea, to stand back for a second and just ask yourself, what is my body really asking me for? Is it asking me for food, or am I needing more sleep? Or am I needing to take a breath just
Am I
from
lonely?
the everyday.
Do I need to
Yes.
talk to somebody? Are you girls hungry right now? I mean, we're talking, and the people that are watching us are engaged with us. So what's happening when you're engaged? You know, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Those are the things that I have to ask myself.
Being more mindful of
Yes, mindful.
I think there are also certain times of day when, for example, we might, you know, at the end of the day, the children are all asleep and you kind of head to that cupboard where the no foods are kept. You know, that cupboard,
Sure.
everybody has that cupboard. But so maybe Cindy doesn't have that cupboard, but we do. I've gotten,
I have it. I have a
Yeah,
husband and children.
okay. So we've gotten into the habit of sort of deciding sometimes, you know, it's the end of the day, we've had a very satisfying dinner, and I'll go up and just brush my teeth, just as a reminder to
Yes.
myself that the eating for the day is done.
That's breaking it. That's
Yeah,
breaking
breaking
it.
the
So
habit.
that's thinking. And you went upstairs. That's what I do. In the beginning, when I first lost my weight, I used to go, okay, done with dinner. I'm going up to take a bath now. And I'd be in the bath for an hour or two in a bubble bath, reading a book, going, just don't go downstairs. Don't go downstairs because you're going to eat if you go downstairs. So I had to learn to soothe. I had to think of a different way to soothe myself. 16 years later, I still take a bath, and everybody knows, get mom or none a bubble bath because that's what she does. Think of a way to replace yourself in a positive way, to replenish.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so back to the questions. What is your favorite real food hack? Is there a meal you can prepare in 30 minutes or less?
Every meal I prepare is 30 minutes.
There you go. How about
Me
you,
too,
Maya?
me too. We cook very quick things. For example, I remember 10 years ago, if you gave me a piece of raw fish, like a fillet of salmon, I would have thought, what on earth do I do with that? But now I know I can put that on a pan, I can sprinkle it with a bit of salt and pepper, and I can spread a little bit of olive oil and lemon, or some chopped onions, or some little bit of garlic, and just put it in the oven, and that thing will cook in 10 to 15 minutes. It's quite amazing. And while it's cooking, you can either be boiling some brown rice or boiling some pasta. There are, you know, ways in which you can do this that are, but it takes practice. That's the only thing. And once you start, you'll never go back.
So you can cook very simply, is what you're saying, and it doesn't have to be a crazy complex recipe
Right.
in order to be tasty and good, right?
In fact, you know, one of my favorite things is, I do this at school all the time, we'll take the whole chicken breast, and the kids will go, oh, I have to cut this up. And I said, no, take the whole chicken breast, put it in water, just cover it with water with some salt. A little bit of salt in there, and just, how much salt? Just enough, kind of like the ocean, you know, not too salty. And, well, it is salty. Anyway, while it's boiling, what they're doing is they're chopping up salad, or they're heating up some refried beans, or heating up some corn tortillas or whole wheat tortilla. When that chicken in about 8 to 10 minutes, they shred it, and then they put it in a salad, or they put it in their burrito, and they're eating in like 10 to 15 minutes. My class is 55 minutes. I have to do 15 minutes of education, and then I have to get them up, and there's 34 kids in my class, and then they have to start to cook, and then they want to eat, and then they have to clean up, and they're out. They can't mop the floors. I just need just an extra 5 minutes, and then they can mop the
Not the
floors.
floors, but they're out in 55 minutes.
They're out 55 minutes with an education piece, with a cooking, with eating, and a community building, because they all have to sit down together.
So if those kids can do it in 55 minutes,
Oh, absolutely.
we can all do it.
Coach them.
Sorry about that, but we're back again, and we're finishing up with the oatmeal. I love the combination.
Oh,
of
the
those
raw
things
oats.
together.
Oh, yeah. So we call it Tutti Frutti, and it's in our book also.
It's in the book too.
It's
Awesome.
in the book. And I don't know how much here, but I'm going to start over again. You take plain yogurt, and you put in as much raw rolled oats. So this isn't cooked, this is raw. And you stick it into the plain yogurt, and then you chop up bananas and apples. You can put pears, you can put blueberries, you can do nuts and things for a topping. And that's what the kids, I just make a trough of it. And the kids come in and they love it. When they first try it, you know, it's like, whoa, you know, like yogurt, where's the sugar? But it changes their
Fruit
palate.
has a good amount of sugar
Oh
and
my
sweetness.
gosh. And then the education, I cannot stress enough, without education and explaining to them what's happening in their bodies and why you need to do this. And even the kids that you think, oh, they're not listening, they're all listening. Because I have not met a child that doesn't want to do that. I have not met one child in any of these classrooms that says, hey, you know, I want to go to continuation school and be in a gang. What they're looking for is for you to tell them how they cannot go there. Give me this much hope on how I can do it better, or what I can do to be empowered to be a better person. They all are. So I tell them, if you just change your food, everything will change. Everything, trust me, it'll change. And then you have to be an adult that shows up all the time, because they need that too. So many of our kids with high divorce rates and such, they're not used to people showing up, and they're used to things changing all the time. So be consistent. Be consistent in their life. Give them a good meal. Take the time to teach them to cook. They're amazing. Kids are amazing.
I bet you can attest to having regular meals and being present in a child's life in terms of making a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that we often underestimate, and it takes a little bit of planning, because these days everybody has different after-school activities, and sometimes it's hard to actually find the time to come together. But when you make that a routine, it is something concrete that the children can hold on to. They know that most nights of the week we will sit down at some point and eat together. And maybe it's not even in the evening, maybe it's breakfast that you do together every day, or maybe it's every second day. But whatever you can do, again, the best you can do with the resources that are available, I think that time to connect is so healthy on so many levels.
And I work mainly with individuals, and I can say sitting down on your own, time to connect with yourself and to connect with your food is also very important and special, a good thing to do in one's life in terms of value. So for Maya, how do we find your online course on child nutrition?
So if you go to Google and you type in Coursera Child Nutrition, it's the only one that'll come up. And it is a course that's intended for everybody. It's really simple. We actually have a new massive open online course coming out in a couple of months, and it's going to be called Food and Health, also on Coursera. So that one's not focused on children. But because I believe that children should be eating the same thing as their parents, essentially, the food that we talk about in the children's nutrition course is very much what adults can eat as well and can enjoy. So it's family food.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
For both of you, any ideas of something that meat eaters and vegetarians can do together in a household?
Well, you know, when I cook everything separate. So I'll have the potatoes or the rice, and then I'll have the vegetable, and then I'll have the beans, and I'll have whatever the meat, because in my classroom at my school, there's 22 languages spoken there. So we have kids that are, you know, vegan and that are Muslim and, you know, have different eating. And we try to keep everything separate and let the kids put it together. But they know that they know their own tastes and what they want. So just keep it separate. Don't stick everything together. Keep it separate, and then you can put other meals from it together. You know, the next morning you can make an omelet for breakfast. And, you know, when one of the things was the yogurt and that. But if you keep corn tortillas or brown rice or potato, stick it all together in the morning with eggs, and then stick whatever vegetables are in there. And I tell the kids, add spinach to everything. Add spinach. Add zucchini. Yeah, add those greens.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about cooking for vegetarians, but I do know a lot about cooking for children with allergies, because it seems that in our children's classes, there are at least 3 or 4 different allergies. So we often have birthday parties where we need an egg-free, gluten-free, nut-free dessert. And
It's called fruit.
Okay. I mean, it's a challenge sometimes to try and figure that out. But often we end up taking strawberries and dipping them in dark chocolate and letting them dry. And that is a dessert for a birthday treat that is egg-free, gluten-free. That's been a lifesaver.
Well, what my kids did for me is they took a watermelon and they peeled it and cut the top and the bottom off, and then they put berries and they frosted it with Greek yogurt. And there is a birthday cake. In fact, my birthday is next week, and they're building me a birthday cake out of fruit. So be creative, and this is where the kids can get involved. You know, star fruit and kiwis and berries and nuts, and you just make a big tray with all of these fruits, and then you just layer it up with cantaloupe, pineapple, and whatever, and make your birthday cake. I would love to see people having birthday celebrations and cakes with real sugar, the way that fructose, the way that you should be eating, with all of the fiber, and then you know what? Knock yourself out. And you can still put the candles there. 60 candles, I said, just get a 6-0. Don't do all those candles. So we'll light this thing on fire.
Okay, so the last question for today is, what's your go-to in a hurry real food meal? Something you probably make a lot.
Yeah. So I don't have a single meal that I make all the time, just because I have 3 children who will tell me, you made that last week, I don't want that again. But I'll tell you an inside story. I recently sat with Michael Pollan, and he told me what his go-to in a hurry meal is, so I can tell you that. So he said he keeps spinach frozen in the freezer, and he comes home and he opens up a can of canned salmon, and he'll boil some whole wheat pasta, and he'll just saute the spinach with a bit of lemon and garlic, a little bit of olive oil, mix it together with the salmon and the whole wheat pasta, and he says it makes a great meal. That's his go-to meal.
There you go.
Okay, my go-to meal,
Mm-hmm.
my husband's probably laughing. I'll take either a piece of salmon or chicken or tofu, and I put a little Montreal cracked pepper, that seasoning, and I'll put it into a pan, and I'll just, as I'm grilling, whether it's the chicken, the fish, or the tofu, I've taken a Japanese sweet potato, the ones that are white on the inside. It's my favorite. I scrub it, I poke holes in it, I wrap it in a paper towel, put it in the microwave, and then I will cook up Brussels. I love Brussels sprouts or zucchini or broccoli. I steam that. In 10 minutes, it's done, and that's my meal. And then I'll do, of course, a salad, and I always have a pear or a piece of fruit with that. So that's my go-to, is Japanese sweet potatoes.
That's lovely.
They are fantastic, and you don't need to put anything on. No butter, no cinnamon, nothing. They're just fantastic.
Right? Yams or sweet potatoes or something I try to have in the house on a regular basis.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so fast.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're so fast and so good for you.
Mm-hmm. So it's time to close. We have 5 minutes left, and we're very appreciative for you to have been here and also to have stayed with us throughout the ups and downs of our internet connection. But in closing, we'd like to invite you to join the 10-day Clean Eating Challenge. And if you've already joined, congratulations. We hope this program will support you and inspire you to excel for the whole 10 days. We're going to have another program on Monday, and we're going to be talking to some other guests about how you can eat clean when you're eating out. So I hope you join us then. The website links will be posted for the challenge at responsibleFoods.org/keepingitreal. So if you want to review the video, go ahead over there and check it out. Thanks for coming, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
And keep it real.
Keep it real.
Keep it real.
That's right.